Close to the city of Python, in a small village called Saviragram, which lay along the banks of the great river Godavari, lived a woman named Ila. Being cotton farmers, her was well to do, but not among the richest in their area. It was the harvest season, and cotton had to be picked from the plants. The wholesalers and traders from Python would be arriving in just a few weeks, carrying gold and goods for barter. They would exchange what they carried for the cotton that the farmers grew. The bales of cotton had to be ready in time. Work was at its peak, but Ila was not to be found in the fields.
I am sick of this.
Ila was sitting by the banks of the great river Godavari, lost in her thoughts. In the meantime, her mother sat right beside her. She was sweating, and there was clearly a sense of anger, frustration, and hopelessness which one could see, or probably Ila could see. Her mother did not say a word, as she knew it was meaningless to disrupt her daughter's thoughts. It had started off late, where she would be lost in the thoughts which she seems to claim very vivid and visions from the past. They were like a collage of memories that had been haunting her recently. It started all on a day when she was working on cotton plantation. She was working, and it was around midday when she suddenly fainted. Ela was taken to the nearest village medical center, where the doctor, after examining her, said she did not have any issues. However, again, after 10 days, she had a seizure and she collapsed again. This continued for at least 3 times until, for the last 3 to 4 days, around the time the sunset would be about to happen, she would come and sit on the banks of the river Godavari and would be lost in her thoughts. Ila first told her mother that she started seeing a grand temple which stood by the banks of the great Godavari, the place where she used to be lost in her thoughts. A deity like Ma Kali was right in the temple, and there was Lord Shiva too. Amidst all that she could see hazily some faces with their forehead smeared with red vermilion mark. There were women too, and all of them had a fire torch on one hand and sword on the other hand. There was one of them who was standing in the center and had an orange turban. Alongside him there was another woman and a man. The sunset had happened as Ila took off from the riverside and went off towards her home. Her mother was waiting for her back at home. She asked what the vision was she saw. She told her mother about the vision she had. Her mother seemed to worry as she started murmuring what had gone into her daughter. Her mother started to make the bajra roti as Ila was lost in her own thoughts. That night, Ila started to speak in her dreams.
I will avenge the fallen, and the time would come.
Her mother violently shrugged her as she woke up. Her mother confronted her as she said she did not remember anything. Her mother had decided that it was enough as she needed to do something. She told her that tomorrow she would take her to the village astrologer first thing. Next day, she took her to the astrologer. The villagers used to say that Yogiraj, who had been following the profession of astrology in the village for last 500 years through family lineage. It was quite prevalent in the village that whatever they said had proved to be true. Ila's mother did not believe that, but the saying was very much prevalent, and this too had been said that they all lived under the banyan tree for the time that people could remember. They never asked for money directly, as they only asked for fruits in return as their appreciation token. Ila was taken by her mother to the banyan tree of Yogiraj, which was on the side of the Godavari river itself, but he did not meet anyone before his morning prayers. Some of their family's devotees always used to offer fruits to them every day. Ila was taken by her mother to the banyan tree of Yogiraj, which was on the side of the Godavari river itself, but he did not meet anyone before his morning prayers. Some of their family's devotees always used to offer fruits to them every day. Yogiraj had a milch cow which used to be close to him in the thatched hut he used to live in. Ila and her mother arrived near the tree as Yogiraj looked at them both.
Your daughter has been having visions of her past life. She had been getting reminded of the times when she was the daughter of a village priest who was here around 200 years back. She was a part of the resistance group that fought against the East India Company, who wanted to destroy Kalimata temple. In the battle, she had lost her father, brother, and her husband. Not only that, the temple was also destroyed, which she keeps on seeing.
Yogi said that Ila would continue to see more visions and can only get respite when the Mahakal Chakra temple's three idols would be returned to the village. The idols of the three deities mentioned had blood of the three people who were the guardians of the Taluka and included Ila in her previous birth as Rukmini. The deities, as far he could tell, was in some museum far away from India in England. Neither Ila nor her mother had a change of expression on their face. They were not sure how far England was, although they knew India had been free from their colonial rule. That was all they knew. Yogiraj said to Ila's mother to keep Ila safe and keep the trust because Mahakal Chakra would guide her to get back the deity as she was the chosen one. He added and continued to tell Ila's mother that whenever she gets the vision of the deity next in her visions, ask her to draw it as much she can, what she remembers, and bring it to him. He said once he sees for himself what was the deity like, he would look up in his family record books that when such a deity is mentioned or not. After that, he would tell them to take the next step. Ila and her mother touched the feet of Yogi Raj as he stopped them and said, "Respect is in the dignity of individual," with folded hands as they left ahead. Yogi Raj was standing on top of the Pune hilltop. Alongside with him were standing Kavita and Ila. Kavita was a professor at Ferguson College and was an acquaintance of Yogiraj.
This was the place of the last Indian effort to keep at bay the Firangis' European powers.
There was the empire of Tipu Sultan and the Sikhs that were also trying to preserve their empire while keeping the foreign powers at bay.
Kavita, after that brief conversation, started to speak in Marathi to Ila and asked her a question while pulling out a piece of paper from her bag. It was a color picture, although the picture was not clear. She pointed at the picture and then showed it to Ila and asked her if this was the same deity that she had seen in her vision. Yogiraj also looked at the picture as Ila nodded her head.
The Maratha pride was the only pride for the Indians at that time.
There was the empire of Tipu Sultan and the Sikhs that were also trying to preserve their empire while keeping the foreign powers at bay.
Next, Kavita brought out another picture from the bag and showed it to Ila. It was a picture of one of the British East Indian Company offices as Kavita asked Ila if this was the man she had ever seen in her visions. She looked at the picture carefully and then she started trembling as tears started rolling down her eyes. Kavita, then while taking the picture away from her, and then gave her a quick tight hug. Kavita had a soft smile on her face as she said to Yogiraj that she had got a reply from the Central Museum of India Council and they had passed on some information. The information that came in was that Mahakal Chakra was a deity that was worshipped only by a select group of villagers residing near the Godavari, as like the village of Ila. Although concrete information is not there, but the deity is supposed to be a protector of the village lands, agriculture, prosperity, and the nature. The small museum in Reading has the statue since 1907, which was handed over by Thomas once he returned to England. A letter was sent out to the Foreign Ministry of UK, being liaisoned by the High Commissioner of Mumbai. The High Commissioner was a pleasant man who was hospitable and sympathetic. He said that he cannot promise for the deity to be brought back into India as of now. However, what he can do right now is that he will take the matter forward, and if circumstances allow, he most probably can arrange for Ayla to see the deity for herself. Kavita had a soft smile on her face as she said to Yogi Raj that she had got a reply from the Central Museum of India Council and they had passed on some information. The information that came in was that Mahakal Chakra was a deity that was worshipped only by a select group of villagers residing near the Godavari as like the village of Ila. Although concrete information is not there, but the deity is supposed to be a protector of the village lands, agriculture, prosperity, and the nature. The small museum in Reading has the statue since 1907, which was handed over by Thomas once he returned to England. Yogiraj was in a serene mood, as he said there is no definite answer, but maybe they were closer one more step. He said to her that very soon news is expected to arrive whether Ila would be able to finally meet her destiny or not. A week had passed after that conversation when suddenly Yogiraj, after opening his eyes after meditation, saw Kavita sitting in front of the tree. Yogiraj had a calm face as Kavita brought out a piece of paper from her cloth bag. She waved it in front of Yogiraj and said, "This is the ticket for Ila to finally see the deity she had dreamt of." The British High Commissioner had obtained permission for Ila to visit the Mahakal Chakra deity. Yogiraj did not say a word in that regard and instead asked her to join him to visit the house of Ila and her mother. Kavita finally got to meet Ila's mother as she had tears in her eyes when she finally heard that her daughter would be able to see the deity. It was 3 months after the meeting that finally Ila was standing alongside Kavita in the Museum of Reading, where in front of her eyes stood in a glass box the mysterious deity of Mahakal Chakra, beckoning her silently.